Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and thank you for joining Discovering Neo4j AuraDB with Michael and myself, Alexander. Hi, Michael. How's it going?
Hi, Alex. Good. It's going well. How about you? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. We went, a couple of friends, we went to the Bohemian Forest, Bayerischer Wald, so here eastern
hmm
part of Bavaria. It was very green when we arrived, and it started snowing Saturday evening, so we didn't bring ski. We could have gone, I guess, on Sunday, but this was already
Yeah,
the day when we went back home. So
yeah,
by now
true.
it's better, but we it would have been
Yeah,
better if this this weekend
yeah, it was
probably, but
reversed.
never know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so I was on Friday. We visited my daughter in Leipzig, and they
Mhm.
had a really cool thing. They had an light show in the zoo. So basically, in the zoo, they had
Ah,
like
okay.
everything colored up and lighted up with like projectors and fancy illumination and so on. It was pretty cool. And we had really good vegan sushi. That was also good. And then on Saturday, it was really snowing a lot, like really, really
Yeah.
thick flakes. So I went for a walk in the park. And then actually on Saturday night, I binge watched For All Mankind season 3, so
Ah.
all 10 episodes in one night.
Okay.
Couldn't stop.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
So perhaps we can do at some point a live stream on like one of the TV series and basically how things are
Hmm.
related and things like that. So that it could be a fun one where you see all like the characters and the story arcs. I'm not sure which of those series has good data in fandom or somewhere, but I could imagine that could be good.
Yeah, I mean, it can't
As well.
be only Game of Thrones that has these things
Exactly.
available. So I think there must be others. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe also ping to the audience if anybody has a great show to watch, and there is some public data set available of it. Let us know.
Yep.
So we can maybe have a look and see if it works out for one of these episodes in the
Oh, and
future.
then I had something else. I was speaking to a new team member at Neo4j today,
Mhm.
and he actually said that he watched our Discover AuraDB free sessions as like preparation for him joining Neo4j and for the interview
Good.
and so on. And that he met you in London actually at Nando's.
He
So,
did met me. Yeah, yeah,
man,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So that's
We
really
talked briefly. Yeah,
small world.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He said, "Oh, I saw." It was funny. Like when this this colleague now came, and I know this voice sounds familiar somehow. Where do I know
I know
you?
you.
And I said, "Yeah, I'm
See,
doing
you're
live streams. So
famous,
maybe
Alex.
this is it." Yes, this is it.
See,
Yeah.
it's like I think Jesus was like approached by people in Asia Pacific and APAC, where they
Yes.
kind of all said, "Hey, you're a real
Yeah.
person. We know you from the streams and so on."
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's always
that's
fun.
good. Yeah,
Yeah. And
totally.
I went to a fun comedy show yesterday as well in the evening, so that was my weekend.
Oh, nice. So
So yeah,
productive
productive.
weekend.
Yeah, very productive. Hi,
Oh,
Nelson.
productive, really, very kind of relaxing.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
productive. Good. Something for the
Personal.
arts,
Yeah,
something for entertainment,
exactly.
and also something to learn.
Exactly. And arts
Yeah,
is also our topic today, so that's fitting
exactly.
as well.
Arts is a
Good.
topic. So
Yeah,
let
let us
me.
know where you're watching from, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Just a moment.
if you want to share, that would be good.
So what's going on today? Discovering Neo4j. So I guess we teased it a little bit already, and it was known. I think it says it so in the title, at least, that we're talking about the Museum of Modern Art today. Briefly, before we dive in, the actual data, what's going on. So if you watch this for the first time, we pick a data set. And we look at that, see if we can find some or develop some model depending on some kind of queries we want to ask of the data set, find out some insights, and then import the data set and run some queries against it. This is basically the idea. And as you said, even if you have a data set, if you see some data that leads itself into become a Neo4j explorational activity or exercise, then let us know, and we can have a look and see if it's going to work in one of the future episodes. Again, here it says MoMA is what's happening today. AuraDB free briefly is a free version of Neo4j graph database. So if you are looking into graph databases and want to start with it, but don't want to hassle about installation, setup, whatever else there is to do before you actually get going, AuraDB is a database as a service we can use free of charge in the free tier, which is limited to 200,000 nodes and 400,000 relationships. And that is the only limitation. The other, the bigger tiers, Pro and Enterprise, obviously have more cores and more RAM, but and unlimited in terms of nodes and relationships. But that's the difference. Yep. And you get to use Neo4j Bloom browser and data importer. It all runs on Neo4j Enterprise, so you get the best version there is, basically, to play with and to try out. And if you want to do so, here is the link on the page. You can see here, and I will post this in chat as well. So here you go. That's where you need to go. And yeah, with that short and brief summary is over, and we can dive into the topic. So how did you come to pick this data set, Michael, today, the Museum of Modern Art?
Yeah, actually, I was in New York 2 weeks ago, and we were thinking about on what to spend a few free hours on. And so my colleagues, Will and David, actually suggested to go to the MoMA. I went to the Museum of Modern Arts actually about 17 years ago, I think, when it was in renovation in New York, and it was touring Europe. So my wife and I, before we actually got together, or in the very early days, like in 2004, it was in Berlin. And so one of our first joint activities was actually going to the MoMA together and standing in the queue in the summer when it was really hot outside there, and then kind of visiting the MoMA, not in New York, but in Berlin. And so I've never been before in New York itself. So 2 weeks ago, we used the opportunity basically to go there. So you see David and me basically taking picture. But of course, I also brought MoMA swag, like the the house in the bowl. Yeah, that's a house. The house in a soup bowl. It's very fancy and famous and very expensive, so I have to be careful. And then for my little one, I brought a ramen spork, basically, right? So I spoon and fork and a bunch of other things as well. So they have lots of good, cool swag in their store. I had to really hold back to not spend all the money there. So they have some really not just nice art, but also nice swag. But today, I thought we look at the art a little bit. And when I had the idea, I looked it up, and actually MoMA has an REST API that we could use if we wanted to. So if you go to the MoMA page, I think somewhere, I think in research and learning or so, they have a point to the REST API. R&D, does it have API here somewhere? I don't know. I just Googled it and I found the API here, basically. Yeah. So it has an REST API, and basically you log into the API and for stuff in parts. Oh, it's actually not external. But they also have open data. Basically, they also have it on GitHub. So I basically just went to the MoMA. The MoMA has a GitHub organization, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they have a collection repository with artists and artwork there, right? And talk a little bit about what's in there. So it's basically 98,000 artworks, 227,000 artists, and this research data set has 140,000 records. So that's really nice. So 15,000 artists, and I'm not sure how many artworks. But it's available as CSV and JSON. And so I thought that's a nice size that should work for us as well. And so I downloaded the CSVs, and that's what we want to use today. Right. So if you look at the CSV quickly on my machine, So it's basically, let's see, this is the artist. So they have an ID, name, a bio, which is oftentimes pretty short, basically just name and when they were born, but they also have it broken out as nationality, gender, birth and death year, basically, and then some of them have wiki IDs. So you could actually construct Wikipedia or Wikidata URLs to look up more information on the artist as well. I'm actually not sure what a ULAN is. I'm not sure if it says something here about ULAN. ULAN ID.
The ULAN ID, maybe there's some kind of art.
Getty. So that's from Getty, something like Getty
Yeah.
Images. So it's probably like the. Let's see. Union list of artist names. That's
okay.
the artist union, it seems. So, for instance, I had looked up an artist earlier. So that was okay. Oh, that's by name. I thought that was the ID. Name or ID? It's weird. Oh no, that was not the ULAN ID. So the ULAN ID looked different for me. Anyway, and for the artworks themselves, we have basically things like title, materials, what year they were created, and so on. It's pretty big, so it's 62 megabytes.
Seems to be a bigger file, yeah.
So it doesn't open quickly, but it opens in for Neo4j, I hope at least. So and as usual, we create an AuraDB free instance. I already did that today. It's up and running now, and we open Neo4j workspace with the open button, and then we can get started. Right. So here's my workspace. I hope it's okay to read. As such, I just add the two CSV files here, and here you see now the overview. Right. So we have an artist. So we could, for instance, if you wanted to pull out something like nationality of the artist, we can probably store the other information directly on the node as such. For the artworks, we have a title. The artist is connected via the ID, but they also repeat some of the fields here, right? So the name, nationality, and so on. So which we can ignore basically. But then this is the date when the artwork was created. The medium. Okay. So I hope that the medium is well structured enough so that we get multiple instances for the same medium. Dimensions you'll probably just store at on the node. Credit line, what it was, who donated this.
Yeah,
could be something that we could probably pull out. I'm not sure how distinct this is.
I mean, if it's always the same, then it kind of would be interesting to see who were the big.
But it's probably something that we can do after the fact, basically, and after the import, and then see if it's distinct enough. You can pull it out. Otherwise, so and then we have here actually something like a category, right? So like architecture is the classification, and architecture and design is the department. So it would go department, classification, acquisition date. So we have an URL as well. So we can also then in the graph click on the link and see the pictures. And then a bunch of other attributes.
Yeah, this is even better. Yeah, I mean the dimensions. Yeah, instead of dimensions, we could use height and width.
Yeah, we can also just store everything, and then.
But we don't really care about the dimensions that much, probably. So.
Yeah.
Because
we can map them.
Height and width we could directly map as integers, where the other is a string.
Yeah, or this is floating point.
Or a float. Yeah.
So it's like. But it could be useful, right? If you want to see which of the MoMA art fits in your living room, Alex.
Yeah, that's a total valid use case.
So you need to filter what kind of space you have on the wall.
Yeah,
and then with your next.
I have some space here. I mean, I just never knew what to put there, but I guess
there are lots of arts. I mean, there's almost like 100,000 artworks, right? To choose from. But what's actually funny is we have sometimes very different expectations of what the size of artworks is, right? So when I was with David at the MoMA, he also said, "Oh, this painting, I really like it, but I thought it was much like smaller than it actually is, right? And on the other hand, I went to a Da Vinci exhibition in Venice a few years ago, and they had like the Vitruvian man, like the man who stands like in a circle, right? And it's like this size, right?
Yeah.
You always think it's like much bigger, but because paper was much more rare back then, and Da Vinci reused everything anyway, right? So he had like lots of his drawings actually really small sketches or drawings of like small size, like less than like A4 or letter size drawings as well, right? So you would expect it's like a larger
You would
thing,
think it's
but
like a big
it's
one.
actually like step size as such. So that could be interesting. So that's what the data looks like, and we can probably start mapping this into. So I would say we map the artist.
Yeah.
And then we can use the properties from the file. So we can use all this. Probably, do you want to pull out nationality here as a separate node? It could be interesting.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, and the rest we keep.
I mean, the artist bio is basically redundant. I don't think.
Yeah, it could be that for some of them they actually have more detail in the bio.
True. Yeah, we
right?
don't know what the other data
It's just
looks like.
we just saw the first few ones.
Yeah.
Perhaps some of them have a little bit more bio as such.
Yeah.
So and constituent ID is our ID, right? So then we pull out the nationality. Do we want to call it nationality or country, or let's call it nationality. Nationality. Let's also practice my typing and spelling. So we can take nationality here as the field, and then we just call it the same in the relationship type, right? So that's kind of our artist file. So it's all green. So we mapped everything as such, and then we would add the artworks. For instance, what do you want to call the relationship type, like created or something like that?
I would say created because I mean it's like otherwise it needs to be somewhat in specific because drawing, sculpture, audio, video. I mean so much.
So it doesn't really have. I mean, hey, it has an object ID. Okay, so we should be able to pick that. So let me select all here, and then we just remove the stuff that we don't want. So the artist information is coming from the artist. Date is the creation date, basically, right? We said that we probably want to pull out the medium, and we pull out the classification and department. As such, what else makes sense to? Yeah, the other things we can just leave as such. Rest should be fine, right? And our the object ID is our ID, and on the relationship we would say artwork CSV from the artist is the constituent ID, and sorry. So actually we need to do it the other way around. That's actually interesting.
What do you mean?
I wanted to select the constituent ID here in the artwork.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, right? So because you need to map from here to here. So it didn't allow me to select the constituent ID in the other direction. So something was not sure if that's a bug. Do you see when I switch direction? I can't select constituent ID from the artwork here. Somehow it's disabled. That's one here. See?
Yeah, I see it now. Yes.
Okay, then I would say we will just do it like this, right? So from artwork. Oh no! Wait. No. Sorry, I was wrong. So we should have up from object ID to constituent ID. I think that's the right. Yeah. So it should be fine.
I need to change direction. I can.
Yeah, then we can change it. Create it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I just had a small. So, and then we said we can pull out the medium, right? Medium, where we pick medium here, which is our relationship. And then the other thing that we can pull out is the
department
what was it
or
called?
classification. Yeah,
I think classification is the direct one, and then the department is one level
this
up,
comes
basically.
afterwards. Yeah.
Right, so that's basically you can probably also call it department or category or something like that, or we just call it in department or something like that, right? And off medium. And then we would say out of classification would have department. And department would also be from the artwork. So, and then here, department. And our relationship type can also be in, and we pick artwork, and that's already mapped here. So let's make this a little bit nicer looking, perhaps. Let's see.
So you
medium.
I know I never mind. Yeah.
Right. So I want to have this two-level tree basically from artwork in classification and department, and then off medium, right? And we can probably call this from nationality or has nationality or something like that. I mean, it's a little bit too generic. Probably has, but from might be okay. Right. So I think that's it in terms of mapping, right? So we got 2 CSV files. We mapped it to 2, 4, 6 nodes, which is actually nice, pulling out of information.
Yeah, and depending on what let's say at some point maybe we want to know more about male or female, then we could think about this another one. But I think this
is also something that we can put as label on the artist as well, because I think I'm not sure if they have like gender diverse representation in the data set, so that would be interesting. Also, something actually a query that we could see if they have gender diverse representation of artists in data set, or just male and female. One other thing that could be interesting is actually pull out something like the what's it called? Like the period of the art. Right. So it's not obvious here, but that's something that we could pull out perhaps from somewhere else, like the periods, different art periods with the time frames or something.
Must be some Wikipedia on.
So if you look at like Renaissance or Impressionism or something like that, right? So modernism. I mean, it doesn't always map to the right dates, but it's at least in that time frame, right? Even if it's like an artwork that is critical towards modernism or critical towards impressionism, right? So it's still in that time frame of that art movement, right? So we would probably not call it that it's like one of those artworks, but that's in the same time frame as that movement happened or so, right? So that could be something to pull out. Materials could be interesting if you can break them down further by submaterials, and then the credit line we already talked about. That might be something to pull out. Okay, if we look at the data as a preview, so this is what a preview would look like. So we have over here, it's actually a nicer graph. Let's fold this out. So this gives us, just from a preview, 11 classifications, 2 departments, 17 mediums, 60 artworks, 67 artists. Sounds actually quite nice. 16 nationalities. So that looks like a good distribution, basically, right? So there's like one artist who has, Bernhard Schumi has a lot of art in here, right? And it's all architecture, interestingly. And then we should be able, let's see, if you can open one of those URLs to see what his art looks like. No. What happened here? Oh, because it has thumbnail URL at the front. So we would see this. Oh, these are sketches.
Okay. That's like
That was just a thumbnail URL, but
yeah.
Okay, cool. Seems to look okay in our preview, right?
Yeah.
So we can just run the import. It should just take a few seconds.
Yeah, this is always just a snapshot, right? The preview, it takes like
exactly.
I don't know how many random nodes.
I think
like 100
around
or
1,000 or something like that. Yeah,
1,000,
or 100. Yeah, depending.
And it gives you like a overview of what it could look like, and then
exactly
you see if it sounds about right, and if not, then you need to
exactly
do some changes.
So I'm not sure what it starts with, but actually in query we should actually see if we do refresh here. We have already 100,000 nodes, or we could, if we are unlucky, we might exceed the sizes. Oh no, WebSocket error. Okay, that's not so nice. So let's see if I refresh this again, if our browser is still around or our database is still around. So this says running. Let's see if that's offline. Oh no, we broke the database. Oh no, we broke the database. So I'm not sure if it's actually restarting itself or if we need to create a new one. Okay, before we do this, let's save.
Did we pick too much data, or?
Yeah, it could be. Let me just download the model with data just to be safe, so that we don't need to map again.
Yeah.
Just in case. Yeah, it's a good question, right? So let's see if I look at the data. So XSV count artists CSV. So the artists are 15,000 and artworks CSV 140,000. So that's
a little bit
165, and then we pull out a bunch of mediums, and yeah, it's a good question. Actually, it could fit in, right? So it depends on the number of mediums and the number of classifications, but in general, it doesn't.
I think it's a little bit over 200,000, right? I mean, 140 plus
15. No, that's
plus 15. Sorry, yeah, no, that's
15.
Not, yeah, 15.
Okay, that's really weird. Oh, it's running again. So no idea what happened here. So let's see. Sorry, query. Let's see how much data got in. 104 got in. So I would say we just run the import again.
Yeah, let's try again.
What happens?
Yeah.
Right, because now also the data that's already there should not be recreated. So not from that respect, I think it should be fine.
Yeah.
So we could actually already look what kind of data is already in here, right? So we have already artists in here, genders. What's interesting, it added some empty strings here, which I thought data importer would not add empty strings, which is interesting. Okay, that's something that we need to look at, I think, at some point. But let's see. Now we have 177,000. So it will get close, I think. Let's see if we make it or if it's. So I think it still has to add the relationships, but in terms of nodes, we should. Okay, cool. It worked perfectly, right? So we stayed inside the limits, so that's good, because now it started to create the relationships already. So and there we have more room in the relationships, right?
Yeah.
Cool, super. So it just finishes the import, and then we can start querying it. And while we're on it, we wanted to look at the gender distribution, right? So if you look at gender, to see. Oh, see, we have actually
yeah.
some non-binary entries, and you also see that data quality, male, sometimes uppercase, sometimes lowercase, male, female, and non-binary. So
Yeah.
there's
There's a little data issue in there.
yeah, but
It's not very much.
so it didn't like us. Oh no, we had almost
Oh, we are lots of relationships now.
lots
Okay.
of relationships, but it
Yeah.
should be fine, I think.
A few will
For
probably
created and
be.
from.
You
Yeah,
need to
perhaps
refresh
the.
again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. Let's see. So we should have in off. Which ones are missing? So from in off in created. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we should have enough. Let's.
I think so too. It's probably just stopped at some point with some of
Yeah.
these. I would assume.
I think there
Some.
are not a lot that are
Yeah.
missing. So just as a demonstration, should be fine. Right. So by the way, if you want to clear up this data, we can also just say set n.gender, for instance, equals to lower of n.gender, and then it would basically update them all, and then we should have a proper representation
okay.
here.
Yeah.
And so there's 3 non-binary and 3,000 people without gender information, right? So I think they could probably do a little bit better in terms of like gender
Yeah,
representation in here. But that's what it is.
But
So
it's
if you want to,
a little bit
good.
sad to see that there are 9,732 male and 2,343 female. So
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
almost triple. Well, it's more than triple in terms of.
Like in every area, right? So
Yeah.
I was just talking to my daughter a while ago about like women in science, like this topic here, right? So and what a sad story it is. Like,
Yeah.
and you and I we talked about it with the
Yeah.
Nobel Prizes and everything,
Yes.
right? So it's
Yeah.
patriarchal society is really still a problem and needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
So I just went from create over to explore to just visually look a little bit at the data.
Mhm.
So this is just the show me a
Yellow is
graph.
the artist. Pink or purple or what it is
This is nationality, I think.
nationality.
And the yellow one is the artist. And then we could basically just select a bunch of the artists and say expand to create it. So we would see the artworks. So the
now they
orange ones are the artworks, right? So it seems that there are a few artists which have a lot of artworks in the data set, right? So for instance, here, John Hans Arp has like
I guess a
lot.
couple. I mean, yeah, maybe they
or
some
this
of
one
them are more
here,
influential.
Dennis Abbott. Yeah, or these are like lots of smaller sketches, or they acquired a whole collection of this artist or something like that. That could also be the case, right? Or because for some of the artists, they just have a few artworks, basically. So from that perspective, that's interesting. But we can actually also clear this here, clear scene. And for instance, if we want to see the tree of departments, and so we can say department, classification, artwork, or something like that, right? Or even just department classification should give us a tree representation. So we could actually switch to the hierarchical layout. And these are like the departments. Like this is architecture design, right? And then it goes basically down to lower categories here as well, right? So you see a few that have a bunch like this one here, which is drawing and prints, that has like all these subcategories, basically performance, collage, print, illustrated book, and so on. So for instance, you can go to illustrated book and then say expand relationships, and that would be like then artworks from illustrated books. Let's switch back to the fourth layout. So that would be like all the artworks in MoMA from illustrated books as such, right? And then you can see, okay, do they cross over with artists, for instance, right? So we could, for instance, say, this is our illustrated books. Let's dismiss the other notes here. So this is our illustrated books here, right?
Yep.
And then we could say, for instance, nationality, let's say French or something like that, right? If they use French.
France was probably.
France.
Maybe.
Nationality. We just look at them all and then we pick one that we like, I think.
Yeah. I don't know what is the value then?
Welsh. Let's see, what do we have here? American, American, Spanish, Danish, French. So let's keep the French one. So we pick, where was the French? Did it select it? No. French. Did it select it now?
Yes.
There's French, and there's our classification. We dismissed the rest. And then we want to see what are the shortest paths between them, for instance, right? So kind of who connects illustrated books with French nationality, and Max Ernst was, interestingly, French nationality. So, and then you could basically also look at more people that connect these as well, right? So you can also say, I'm not sure if that works actually. If you can do reveal, reveal relationship only works on screen, I think. But what we could do is we can do a scene action. So instead of returning just the shortest path, we can actually do all shortest paths, right? So
Yeah.
So an advanced usage here, just looking at the time. All shortest paths. Can basically say match first node where ID in N is nodes of 0, and then 1, of course, and then match N2 nodes of 1, right? So it's all 2 nodes basically. And then we say match path equals all shortest paths of N1 connected to N2, and then return path. Right? And we can probably limit it to whatever, 5 hops or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And we might want to limit it to, let's say, 100 paths or something like that. So, and this is a scene action, exactly. So, and now we should be able to select these two and pick from scene action all shortest paths, and then it gives us 100 shortest paths between the two, right? So we basically can see kind of who are all the people, all the artworks and artists that connect French nationality with book illustrations, for instance, right? So that's kind of, you see basically the cluster of these two, all the people and artworks. And so that's a nice one. But I think we can go back to query and write a bunch of interesting queries. So for instance, what I'm interested in is kind of how big are these departments, right? So these classifications. So we say classifications have artworks, basically, right? And we just return the name, or what's it called? Classification and the count. So we see how many artworks are in each classification. And so we see 30,000 prints, almost 30,000 photographs, 25,000 illustrated books, pure drawing. There's also classification for one archive, basically, which is interesting.
I guess they bought the whole lot.
Yeah, but some of them have really few entries, right? Fashion, only one fashion entry. 3 films, textile, 17 textile, 17 performance, 23 collage. 45 posters only. That's actually surprising. So either this was in our bit, which was at the end, or it would be interesting.
Maybe
fewer posters than films. It's kind of interesting. Or they are categorized as another drawing or design or something like that. I think because they don't have multi categories, right? So they have only one classification for each. So that's something that could be interesting. Right? So what are some other questions that we could ask? We could, could, for instance, ask, is there any correlation between, let's say, nationality and type of, or let's look at the material. So I wanted to see the material, the medium, basically, and the time frame. So basically, we have our artworks that are on certain mediums, right?
Mhm.
And I want to see the medium, I think is it. Also. And the artwork dot, is it just here? Date, I think it's date.
Is that the create date or which date do you? Yeah, okay.
No, the date. It just says date here. So which is not necessarily an single year, so it could be also multiple years, like the date range, right? But let's see. Imagine we take the first 3 numbers to get like the decade or something like that, right? So we can say substring string of date, comma 3 plus 0, just to get the decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
oh, sorry, 0, comma 3, right? And then we could actually group this by date, by as decade, and then would count them and see basically which ones are order by count descending. Let's see. So let's see. So we see, for instance, in the 70s, lots of photograph prints. So I mean, photographs seem to be these are all
Yeah, I
photographs,
mean,
right?
yeah.
So lots of photographs in every.
Yeah.
It's easier to create photographs than
Well,
drawings.
it's the museum of modern art. So I guess, I mean, with the rise of photography, I would imagine that would take a bigger part than.
Yeah, but it's also much easier to take a picture with a camera than sit there for 3 months and paint painting, right? So that's, I think, also like the order of like how hard or easy it is to create something, right? So I think if you look at like the 1920s or so, there should be much more drawings and paintings, for instance, right? So that's probably something. If we, for instance, say where decade is less than 19 or less than equal to 1920s, it should be, I think, this medium. So still lots of photographs. Yeah, I think they started in the 1890s also, right?
Yeah.
But then here see like woodcuts, for instance, and lithographs and wood engravings in the 1810s. Lots of wood engravings, pencil on paper. So it's changing over the course of time as well, right? Which is interesting. So then other things that we could look at is kind of the age of an artist when they created the artwork.
Yeah, because we have the born date. Yeah.
Exactly. So we basically say an artist created an artwork, right? And we just say a dot begin date. You should have begin date. I'm not sure why they called it begin date. And artwork dot date minus, so to integer. So we should be able to see the set bio. Is it like first name, last name? What did we have for? Is it What's the name? Artist bio? What's
Artist?
the artist name?
I forgot.
You can also just look in display name. Okay. Should have probably also renamed that one. So next time we have to pay a little bit more attention to for the names. And then artwork dot what is it? Limit 20. So we see basically a bunch of artists here. So we could, for instance, say we can sort this by age, ascending and descending, and see who are the oldest and youngest artists. And so the youngest artists. This doesn't look so right? So
it's very young.
No, actually, that's really interesting. Let's look at the actual data.
Maybe some of them is messed up because it has maybe 2 dates.
It
or
could
something.
be, yeah. Yeah, but look, the artwork is 1850, and the begin date of the artist is 1904. So something is wrong here.
Yeah.
There seems to be some data quality issues. By the way, something I noticed in MoMA is there's a lot of artwork which is just untitled. So I'm not sure if the artists are just making fun of the visitors and museums and everyone. There were so many that were untitled, where I think, oh, I just drew something and I just throw it out and call it untitled. And whatever you make out of it, that's what it means for you, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, some of those are perhaps like this one. That looks like more like a company, right? But here also, like, the company is founded later than the artwork was created. So we probably want to say basically.
Yeah, that's a bit strange. I don't know.
Let me just copy this over. You can here also just say where age is greater than 0 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then
with that we kill the. I mean, a couple of them.
I mean, there's still. I mean, Nest from Palo Alto has a thermostat, right? So on display in MoMA.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. So some of them, I think, are just companies basically that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we should probably look at older than 12 or 14 years or something like that, right? So but even those are. Oh, here it starts like. Castrucci is. Should we look at then?
13.
Media or URL. Let's see. Was Castrucci? Apple.
A little further down. Down.
I was just wondering why it sorted it this time differently.
Here it is.
Oh no, there's no URL. Oh man. Oh no. But he was someone else, right? So
yeah, but there's also no
URL. Okay, what's the next? Jeremy Anderson.
Here we go, 14.
So let's
get
see
there.
what.
Get to see some art.
Sorry, remove these.
And it is.
So at 14, and oh no, it was not available. Oh no. Okay, we're not lucky here.
No.
So we can use epoch low JSON or something like that to check if it returns a 404, an empty image or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Brad Weston. Should we try this one? Like,
yeah, let's
the last one. And then we look at some other questions that we can answer. And
drum roll.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes. It's a
corrugated iron roof with 14 years. That's actually quite an achievement, right? So to get something photographed with 14 years, that makes it into MoMA. But it was also in the early days of photography as well, right? So from that perspective. But there seem to be some. So if the data is correct, of course, there seem to be some quite young artists at the age of the when they created the artworks. that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can do the
the
other way
other
around, and while you edit.
Oh yeah, so you're right. We wanted to do the other way around as well, descending. So what are the oldest artists? So or some of them have a begin date of 0. That's also not what we want, right? So where a dot begin date is greater than 0. Okay, 135. That's again companies, right?
That's
So
company, but here Carl
Schöller takes
Elsner
with
108.
108.
That seems
Crazy.
like a
Let's
Swiss
have a look.
Offices knife champion.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the famous
the-
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, exactly. But with 108, that's pretty impressive as well. In the other direction, as such, right?
It is, yeah.
Solar panels, but it could also be like company-wise, right? It could also be a company. I'm not sure if it's like an individual or not.
Yeah.
But there are like a bunch of people like Common Herrera,
Yeah.
who was very prolific, and a few other folks. Nice.
Wow, yeah.
Up
Couple of
active to an old age, right? So which is cool.
Yeah.
So one thing that I also wanted to see is, can we match basically nationalities to departments, right? So can we actually see which nationalities are most active in which departments? Basically, so we have the nationality for the artist, right? The artist who created an artwork. So that's actually one of the nice things about the graph model, that you can just spell out the pattern as you would draw it on a whiteboard, right? So, and the artwork is in a classification, I think, right? And that's what I wanted to look at, right? So the nationality, the classification, count as C, order by C, descending limit 50, and then efficient, and then we just return the nationality, the classification, and count. And I count. Oh,
same, maybe.
yeah. So most of them are American, right? So that's obvious because it's American museum.
Yeah.
But then French, lots of illustrated books from France. See, lots of photographs from France, prints. So the second most common seems to be French, basically. Lots of German prints, Spanish illustrated books, British photographs, German drawings, Russian illustrated books, okay, Italian prints, Japanese prints as well, okay, 643 Japanese prints, that's pretty nice. Mexican also prints. So that's kind of where we can basically correlate nationalities with classifications, right? So, and then we could actually create a new relationship between nationality and classification that says, puts the count on a relationship, and you would have like a graph between the mapping between nationality and classifications, for instance, right? So that's something that you could do as well. Or the same way we could also say, hey, if we correlate artists via the date or the time of their artworks, we could basically put artists into a same time period, basically, as such, right? So actually, perhaps that's something that we could do in the last 5 minutes. If we have our two artists, right, who both created an artwork, and so that's our second artist. But they didn't create the same artwork. They created, of course, two different artworks, right?
Okay, yeah. I mean, there probably are artists that created something together, obviously.
Yeah, but it's not in the data, I think, right? So we have these two artists, and we would say where date equals so where the dates equal each other. But what we actually want to say is where the difference between the two dates is, let's say within 5 years, 10 years. What would you say, Alex?
Let's start with 5 and see.
Okay, is less or equal to 5, right? Return a1 dot display name. Display name, okay. And then I want to see actually how often they had this. So I think this is a more involved query, so that will run for a bit. Because it needs to match all these patterns and then match all these patterns. So it's quite a lot of.
You had
So what-
AW date and AW date. Shouldn't it say AW and AW?
You're right. Yes. You're right. So what we also could do differently here is for the first artist, basically do a subquery with a1 picture AW date state, and then we could say I was just thinking if you can optimize this in terms of lookups or so. But what we can probably do is just do this for a few hundred or something like that, right? So let's say 1,000 artists first, and then we just connect them to the other artists, basically, and so on. And if that is faster. So it touches quite a lot of data for this query, right? So because that's like 100,000, and for each of the 100,000, it has to check against 100,000 again. So it's basically, what is it, 10 billion? So and so this is still 100 million hits or so. We might even overload our little database here. So what you would probably do, and if we were to try this for real, turn the date into something that we can index and compute better on. Something like we did before with decade, and look at if they're in the same decade or something like that. And then so actually that's something that we could do, is we can just say we get our artworks and set aw.decade equals basically, what did we say, substring from aw.date, 0,3 and plus 0. So that's kind of the decade roughly, right? So let's see. Probably import this one. I hope we don't kill the database again. Small database. So that's 100,000 updates. But then we could basically create an index on artwork dot decade. That's the old index syntax, and it will complain about it exactly. For one, I can't spell for. Oh, we have our index, and we use too much memory. Okay. So what we can do is here is call. I know that doesn't work here. With limit of 25,000 or something like that. So we can do it just for a bunch. Okay. Let me do this really quick. So. Okay. Do we have more than? That's interesting. Okay.
No.
So we have actually many more artworks. How many artworks do we actually have? Oh, I'm interested. Let's see. So 140,000. Didn't they say it was 100,000 artworks or so? No, it was 140,000. That's right.
140? Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, 140.
Okay, and then we can say here with a1, aw.decade. That's decade. And then for each software, basically we do a lookup of artwork by decade. Or where aw2.decade equals decade. And then we just say, if we have this, then we basically create a new relationship between the artist one and then same time also, right? Or contemporary and a2. And then we say c.decade equals decade. And so it would create a new relationship if there was not one already. And so this should be faster to look it up from the index, right? So let's see. Because for each of those 1,000 artists, it should connect them to other artists as well.
Yep.
Although probably we should have done it by frequency. So if they've been contemporaries more than once, basically for more than one decade, then so because this would probably create almost like a cross product here. So we could have also just sorted this by how often that happened.
So because now it would match almost everybody with everybody else.
Yeah, so what we can probably do is basically instead say return a2, count star, right? And then basically min decade and max decade. Right? And this is frequency basically. So we know for each artist how often, right?
Yep.
And then we say where the frequency is greater than, let's say 5, I'm not sure. You can probably just return a1, a2, frequency min max, limit 100. Nice. Now it's better, right? So we basically see these, because it's across all the artworks, right? So that's why it's actually pretty frequent. So we should probably say, perhaps you should say count distinct decade. How frequent, for how many decades have they been like overlapping? And then we could perhaps do something like this. So we say how many decades do we have, and then we would do it on this also. Let's see. Or we keep the artworks and basically just say 20 or something like that. All right, you have 25, 21. So how many we get all in total for artists? And this here could also be distinct, basically. So not very many artworks in the same decade. Come on. I just wanted to have the similarity graph between artists. It doesn't like me. Oh, okay. So it's 77,000 even with this limit, right? So if you increase this actually, so they have not just been contemporaries, but also frequently. So there are too many contemporaries. It's probably like the modern, right? Okay, let's see. And now we could basically create a relationship between the two artists. contemporary CA2 and set c dot min equals min and c dot max. So that's kind of between which decades basically have they been contemporaries. Oh no, we can't do this because you're already out of relationships. Oh no, I didn't pay attention.
Right. Yeah,
Oh
true.
man.
I didn't look at it either. Yeah.
But in principle, this should
Yeah.
give you like an artist to artist graph of contemporaries that share the same decades.
Yeah.
That you then can visualize and so on. Sorry for that, but at least you got the code to do that yourself on a larger database. So if you had imported only like a subset of the artworks, for instance, if you had filtered out photographs or something like that, then we would have much fewer as such, right? So that's probably something as homework. Use something like XSV filter out. So you can use, I think, XSV search on classification. And then you can basically say, what did we say? Photograph or something like that? Right?
Photograph, yeah, that's probably a good. I mean, photograph is a huge. Maybe if you do photographs only, that's
Right. So and then XSV count.
I don't know.
XSV count. This is 34,000, right? So this 1/3 already of the, or not 1/3, 1/4 of the data,
Yeah,
right?
so
So if you exclude photographs or only use photographs or something like that, then
yeah, exactly.
you have a subset basically, and then you can basically turn this into another CSV and then work with those as such. I think you can also negate the search as well, so where it's not equal, basically as such. Yep.
And you could technically do this already with data importer, right? You don't even have to do it.
Oh yes, Alex, you're right. There's this new feature where we can filter. Or is this already in?
I think we had it last time. Yeah, in this here in the settings.
No, so I think that was node exclude lists. That's only for the node IDs. But they're working on a feature. Actually, it's a good point. The data importer team is actually working on a feature that allows exactly that you can basically filter a subset of the data by saying this column needs to be architecture or something like that, and then it would. So you could create actually multiple nodes, so one for architecture, one for photographs, and so on, by using the same file, but then applying a different filter on those on one column, basically.
Cool.
They would say, okay, this should be only architecture. So that sometimes is useful if you have a file where all the export of another database is in one file, basically, and you want to create different nodes for different types of, let's say, purchases or products or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Want to get a little bit more overview, insights into the data by, splitting it apart some more. Exactly. Yeah, once, I mean, maybe this data set is good for that. So once this feature is available, we can maybe reuse it and show some stuff.
I think we had something similar when we did the Goodreads data set.
Goodreads is also great. Yeah.
Right. Remember when we wanted to do it by tag or something like that, where we said, okay, it would be good to separate them out into different books or so. So that could be interesting. But you're right. This data set could be a good one because then you'd kind of reduce the number of.
Goodreads was a little bit messy, if I remember.
That's true. The tags were really messy in Goodreads. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but that gets us to like the end of it, and so I don't know, Alex, if you have any this week's live streams.
Yes. So exactly. Thank you for showing this. So there's a couple of things going on this week. So we have obviously today. Tomorrow, I'm having a special guest, Suleiman Sharif, and we talk about how to import global chem into Neo4j. Global chem is like a chemistry open data set. It's a little bit like PubMed, if you remember this, or other open data sets. And this he had written a import how to get this data into Neo4j. So that's interesting.
Nice.
If you are into the chemicals, life sciences, healthcare kind of associated industry, then this is for you. And on Wednesday, it's almost it's not almost, but it's almost the end. But it's the penultimate edition of the Full Stack GraphQL Book Club, Chapter 8. We're gonna deploy our little app. So getting there.
Yeah, getting there. And if you can't make it, there are recordings, but you can also get the book. By the way, if you don't know, there is the GraphQL book also available on the website, and I don't
Exactly.
know the link out of my.
Neo4j.com/books. That's very
But
easy.
yeah, oh sorry, books.
Books. And then
And
there it
here
is.
is on top. Right.
Yep.
So if you want to get a PDF copy of the whole book, put in your information, and then you can see that. This on the 24th, the GraphQL one. Is this something else from?
This is something else. This is from Will. I think with also with Neo4j team to discuss a little
Cool.
bit, get some insights into the book, some overview. It's less technical. It's more like what is the
level.
book? What is in there? What can you learn and stuff like that. It doesn't go into the technicalities like the book club, but it's if you haven't read the book or haven't downloaded the book, this is a good session to get an overview of what the book does and what you will learn there, and then you can watch the recordings of the book club. And do
Actually, it's not about a book, but about GraphQL subscriptions, which is one of the new features of the library.
This is a different one.
Where you have live updates. So this is, I think the other one is another webinar. So this is actually from the GraphQL team.
Okay, then.
So they get live queries as like GraphQL subscription. So
because there is
GraphQL
a
content.
webinar. Yeah, there is a webinar coming. I don't know exactly when.
Yeah, it's
when
probably
that is.
we need to switch on webinar or something like that. Perhaps that shows us the other GraphQL book.
Yeah, it is.
This is the webinar, right?
This is the webinar. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's end of January.
I was confusing the two. Yeah, end of January. Next week.
Yeah, next week. Yeah. Cool. Nice. GraphQL all
also
over
GraphQL,
the place.
Exactly. So that's always a good topic.
GraphQL weeks.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay, Alex.
Right, Michael.
Thank you so much. This was fun, as always.
Yeah. And yeah, I think with that we're at the end. Join me tomorrow or on Wednesday this week, and I hope to see you somewhere else around the community as well. And with that, have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Yep.
Hope your Monday was good or is good or is going to be good. And take care, everybody, and see you soon.
Exactly. Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.